Hello, I am Jake Cadieux. My most influential album is Soundgarden's Badmotorfinger. This album has influenced me very deeply to the source. I heard it when I was 15 for the first time. I had already been playing the drums for 5 years, and I had never heard drumming like Matt Cameron's drumming on this record. It changed everything for me, actually. Well, basically all throughout high school, I was exclusively listening to 90s grunge like Mudhoney and Melvins and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and whatever else. And then I think I turned 19 and I started working at The Beat Goes On, and I took probably like a 3-year break because there was, my world was opened up to so many other groups through my coworkers at the time that I kind of ditched everything I was listening to in high school. I perceived it as pretty uncool. But I've gone back to it over the years, and I've realized how important it is to myself as a musician. Its influence on me as a drummer. I wouldn't be the drummer that I am without these records. And I still, now I think, I'm almost 25 in an hour. So, they're still just as important to me now as they were the first time I ever heard them. I don't think I could get sick of them at this point, especially now that Chris has passed on. They're still very important, especially Badmotorfinger, because it's still like a super heavy, like obviously Sabbath influenced, riff heavy, gross, distorted grunge record. I discovered this record basically just through a chain of listening, of getting into grunge bands. When I was in middle school, my close friend at the time, his brother was very into Pearl Jam. He passed that down the line. And I think just, being on the internet through a succession of just, links and links and links, and then just hearing names. The Audioslave was pretty big at the time, so I was aware of who Audioslave was. I knew who Chris Cornell was. I knew who Rage Against the Machine was. And I think the first Soundgarden song I ever heard was, Black Hole Sun was getting a lot of play on the radio, but I can't even hear that. I can't even hear the opening notes of that song. I'm so fucking sick of it. But I think the first Soundgarden song I ever heard was Pretty Noose, which is off Down on the Upside. Yeah, Down on the Upside. And then I just went in succession from their first record to this one, and this is by far my favorite. It's not often that I will listen to Badmotorfinger when I'm at home or when I'm just, going through records. But it's I could never leave it out of a list of a compilation of records that, defined who I am as a musician. Thank God it never happened. I was pretty close to getting this massive logo tattooed on my body at one point. Opted out. But I was extremely obsessed with it when I was 16, 17 years old, so it seemed like a good idea at the time, but thank God it didn't. Other albums that come as close to Badmotorfinger as far as drumming goes are probably most of the Hendrix discography, at least featuring Mitch Mitchell. The first Hendrix record I ever purchased was Experience Hendrix, which is like a compilation record, and Mitch Mitchell was quickly my favorite drummer. So that was a runner-up for most influential record, but specifically the Jimmy Blues compilation, I think, which came out in 96. And that was a runner-up. Both Mitch Mitchell and Matt Cameron are easily the most influential drummers on me. My favorite album is this one right here. I happen to have a copy of it. It's Aphex Twins' Ambient Works 85 to 92. This is my favorite record because I think this was the first electronic record. Probably this record, and also Music Has the Right to Children by Boards of Canada. Equally, this one I listened to more, but it was an area of music that I had never ventured previously. I still to this day am not, I don't know too much about electronic music. I have friends that are producers, but myself, I'm totally technically just inept. It's beyond me how any of this is done, but there was many like late night coming home drunk from the bar, lying on the floor listening to this record start to finish. It's a pretty long record. It's like 70 minutes, maybe 80 minutes. But there's not a track on here that I don't love. For a long time, X-Tal was my favorite song. I mean, I think over time, this record has definitely dropped in the stats. It's so hard to pick a favorite record. It's really what it comes down to is what's your most influential and what will you visit. You'll visit over and over again over the years. But this was probably my first favorite record as like a young adult. I listened to Badmotorfinger when I was in high school. It was a tumultuous time, very angsty. This is totally different. This was a very relaxed. I was going through some shit as a young adult, and this was really what I would turn to like time and time again to relax, for lack of a better word. Try to, if I was tense or if I was depressed or upset, I just put on this record and it helped. So as much as I don't know much about the history of the record itself, obviously I followed Aphex Twin to this day, but still, it's out of my league as far as what's actually going on this record. But if I had to pick another record that at this time is close to a favorite, it's probably Sleep's Dope Smoker. I think I discovered this record through my good friend Oliver. He was kind of my go-to guy for exposing me to things I'd never heard of before I started working The Beat Goes On. Again, this is like a bit of an emotional record for me. So I think, maybe when I was 19, this was one of the first records that I listened to with a significant other at the time. It was like a bit of a rocky, like self-destructive relationship. And we both just lay and listen to the whole record, start to finish, and didn't really talk much. It's not really at this point, it's not really a significant event, but for this record, it's still a memory that's tied to that record. It doesn't define me as a person, but it's a part of what this record has accomplished for me. So, just smoothing over the edges.